everyone. Welcome to Random Spirit Podcast. I am your host, Cynthia. Today, I'll be talking about some of the shadows that I feared to face and what they taught me. Okay, so I'm just going to be going on and rambling. This is like a ramble, more of like a podcast. I am the type of person that likes to meet trauma head on. And I know not everyone's like that, and it's okay and it's all right. But I do feel like if you want to go on and heal, you need to be able to sit in the darkness. Okay. The type of work that I do, like I'm an energy healer, and it's really about facing your fears, not like in an actual literal way, but just being able to be, presented or be in a situation where fear comes up and just go on and like just integrate that fear. One of my biggest fears was to be alone. In the beginning of my spiritual journey, I was petrified. Okay. Your girl was so scared to be alone. And I feel like in our healing journey, in our spiritual journey, there is like medicine in our fears, right? Shift that perspective. There's medicine in the fears because I feel like I had issues with this codependency, right? And I didn't know how to operate without having my security, my blanket, someone right there beside me. My fear was basically telling me that I was obviously petrified of being alone. And you can tie that with abandonment and other, trauma issues. But it's something that I actually faced. And now I absolutely love, spending time alone. And I just find so much clarity and so much love and so much peace with myself when I do things alone. Yeah, like I still struggle, but being alone is just amazing to me. Another fear that I had was death. Now, speaking on the topic of death, like actual literal death is something that scares the living shit out of me. The fear is valid, but shifting the perspective and really seeing, like, Cynthia, is it like actually death? Death in a way of like energetically and within oneself, death and rebirth. And the lesson there was for me to allow part of myself to go through like this death, right? For me, it looks different. I know like death and grief looks different for everyone, but I'm talking about death in a sense of there's a certain part of you that you're letting go. Grief as in you remove yourself from a situation, from an environment, and there was that thought of this was your forever and you having to grieve that. That is what my shadow was showing me is like, Cynthia, you're in this comfort. You cannot grow with comfort. Like I said, I'm the type of person that loves to meet trauma head on. And my energy, my spirit guides, my freaking higher self was like, girl, like you need to go through this energetic death, not in the physical reality, but you need to go through many deaths within yourself and just go on and like integrate that shit and like come up from it. It can be quite difficult, especially in the time when you're going through a death, because there are parts of you that want comfort, and healing is not comfortable. It's not supposed to be comfortable. What would it look like for you to face your fear? And if your fear is like death, let's just go on and like shift that for a bit. So, not in an actual literal death because we're human. We don't want anyone to die or anything. So, what is it that we need to face that like we're petrified of? For me, myself, another thing that I didn't necessarily know that was scary was the sister wound. Okay, y'all? Because when it comes to me and like the way that I process things and the way that I do healing, something's coming up, and in the way that it works in my world, there are a lot of situations that come up. And specifically for the, sister wound, there was a lot of situations where there would be conflict with another woman, And I was just like, what gives? Like, I already have a difficult time making friends. And I'm just like, what is going on? So that is the way of in Cynthia's world, it's like, okay, girl, heal it. And this is actually something that was a shadow, but I feel like it was like a suppressed one, if that makes sense. It was um something that was obviously like unhealed and it needed to come to the surface. And when it did, there was a lot of this, okay, this sisterhood, this closeness. I associate sisterhood with like intimacy, right? With actual like receptivity, with love, with like, fucking healing circles, vulnerability. And I feel like the fear in that was I never necessarily got that. And having to actually face and allow certain situations to happen and certain friendships to fall and things to unfold. And back then, Cynthia would have acted in a trigger response. But now, when I have friendships, you're not just my friend, you're my family, you're my soul sister. Like, I love freaking deep. I'm extremely sensitive and I am so emotional. I allow myself to cry and I just go through this wave of a bunch of emotions and I allow it to just do what it has to do. And there was this fear that had come up that I realized that was around intimacy, that was around closeness, specifically to women. And with it, I had found, like, on my own healing journey and going through all the stuff, it's like, okay, Cynthia, like, you need to be like, have your heart open, right? And you need to allow yourself to be vulnerable. I need to be able to see another woman and not judge her and not have any emotion that I don't want associated to me in that. I hope I'm making sense. With the sister wound, I feel like it just taught me that how am I supposed to even open space for this intimacy, for this trust, for this love, for like the actual definition of sisterhood? How does Cynthia expect that to happen when I am holding this like resentment and all this shadowy energy in my heart and I'm literally like I'm feeling it right now? How do I expect to even heal from it and move through it if I don't allow these emotions to come to the surface? This is a recent shadow that has actually just played out. And what that taught me was it is okay to let go. It is okay to let go of the pain. I feel like there's this part of me that feels like it's justified. Like if I need it to be justified, and I am like very strong about you need to apologize when you have to. You need to own up to your shit and things like that, right? And I'm like huge on justice. And I think what I had to go through and what I had to tell this wounded part of myself that Cynthia, letting go of the hate and any hate that was in there, resentment, fucking sorrow, sadness, whatever it is, it doesn't make my trauma any less. I hope that made sense. It doesn't make my trauma any less. The shadow of the sister wound opening and surrendering to this wound and being able to hear what that shadow needed and wanted from the healing, it showed me that I can actually have fun. Putting those walls down, I can actually have fun. It's also opened a door where I have the opportunity to connect with other women. And this is, for me, this is big. This is groundbreaking. The thought of women don't like me and I'm not ever going to be able to make friends and like this isolation, this isolated shadow that I had, she's dwindling, she is disintegrating, and it's the most beautiful freeing thing. Just even talking about it, my heart is, it was heavy and now like I feel it lifting. I want to end this by saying this. There is so much healing in our darkness, okay? In this episode, I'm referring darkness to shadow because that's what it is. It's your shadow. It's your triggered self. It's your unhealed self. It's another version of yourself that you need to heal. There is so much learning that you can do in your shadow and just sitting with your shadow. There's so much to learn in the darkness because wherever it is within yourself or within anyone, wherever there is darkness, that darkness is lacking love. It's lacking compassion. And I know it can be extremely difficult when someone's being a fucking asshole or like a jerk or whatever. But I feel like at some point, even especially if it's like within yourself, in order for you to release that, in order for you to get out of that, you need to be surrendering to the shadow. You need to be open to the shadow, allow the shadow to be seen and heard, create a safe space, whatever that looks like, create a safe space. And acknowledge the shadow. I see you. I hear you. Everything it is that you feel, everything it is that you've been through, it's justified. Like, I get it. That's some fucked up shit. Like, I get it. But in order for me to just to live my life and be happy and find peace and be able to allow more lessons and just connectedness and intimacy and other opportunities in this aspect of like the shadow. I need to let my walls down, be open to your shadows, open space for your shadows, and absolutely love the fucking shit out of your shadows. And that is how you integrate that shit. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Go on and, let me know in the comments. You can DM me. What shadows do you fear to face or have you feared to face? What is it that you have learned from a shadow, right? What is it that you have learned on your healing journey? Go on and comment. If you are watching me on YouTube, subscribe and like this, share this, share this with someone. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple, follow your girl. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.